I love this. Oh, it's so early, but that's because we are in Sweden and it's summer and 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm actually bringing you somewhere. We're going up to Skellefteå. The reason that we're going there today is actually twofold. So I am going up there to verify that a flight school called Green Flight Academy is good enough to be a partner flight school to the Airline Pilot Club. That means that I'm going to be checking out their facilities, their instructors, their airplanes, their simulators and all of that. But that's only part of it. The reason that I'm bringing you guys along is because Green Flight Academy is, like the name suggests, a green flight academy, and they're actually a big user of electric aircraft in their training, which is something that I find really, really fascinating. I'm wondering if they have actually found the one and the first way to actually use battery-driven aircraft for something useful commercially today. It looks like they might have found something. So why do we have to go all the way up to Skellefteå, you might wonder, to find a flight academy that has sustainability as one of their main targets? Well, that's because Skellefteå is actually a pretty special place. Not only it is an absolutely beautiful town, and it really is, you should check it out if you have a chance. It's also a town that produces most of the electricity that they need from sustainable and renewable sources. So hydroelectricity that comes from the rivers and wind turbines as well. And Green Flight Academy is actually using that to its full extent by powering their campus where they do their theoretical training with that type of energy, and then they charge up their shuttle buses, of which one we're actually sitting in right now, to bring their students out to the airport, and at the airport they then charge their electric aircraft. So we're actually on our way out to the airport right now, and I have a couple of questions that I want to ask to their head of training. And also I'm hoping to maybe have a chance to actually fly this aircraft and feel how it feels and how it's different from a normal aircraft. So let's have a look. Johan, thank you very much for letting me come here and visit your the flight school.
Yeah, nice to have you here.
So, this is the Pipistrel Velis Electro. I have a few questions.
Shoot.
I'm pretty skeptical about electric aviation at all, actually. Yeah. And I have like a theory that you guys have come up with a way to actually use battery-driven aircraft in a way that actually makes sense. Yeah. So, how long have you been working with the Velis, with the Electro now?
I've been flying this for about a year and a half.
Okay.
And the first winter, actually, we got the first airplane. I spent just flying myself to figure out what can you do with it and not.
Okay.
Because, of course, we want to design an ATPL integrated program and use as much electric aircraft time as we can, but without compromising quality.
What kind of endurance do you get out of an aircraft like this in reality? Not what it says in the papers, but what it actually does.
Yeah, we get about 45 minutes plus reserve, which is more than enough to do a normal flight lesson.
Good, and reserves is interesting because it's one of those things that me as a commercial pilot, when I hear reserves, I think about flying from where you're supposed to go to an alternate plus 30 minutes. But that, I'm guessing that's not.
No, now we're talking VFR reserve, which is normally 30 minutes, but inside of the airport it's 10 minutes.
Okay. So if you have inside of the airport means that you have actually dedicated yourself to a specific airport, and you're close to it. In that case, you can use 10 minutes as reserves.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. So we're talking about an hour-ish, 55 minutes or so of useful total time. Yeah. Good. How much do the batteries weigh in this thing?
There's two batteries. They weigh 70 kilos each. So there's one in the front and one in the back. And weight-wise, that's as much as battery you can get in the airplane. Because stealth certifications max 600 kilos, and with the basic empty weight of the airplane, that's what's doable right now with today's technology.
And how much can you lift then? What's the useful?
Around 172 kilos. So you can't be
very big.
You can't be too big. If you're above 85 as an instructor, then you're more than half the useful load. So then might be an issue.
So it's okay. So you probably have some kind of training bicycles around here to keep
exactly
keep people in
free gym membership.
But all right, that's really interesting actually.
Yeah.
So since you are among the first ones to operate this, did you come across any problems when you first got them?
Yeah, of course, like with all new designs, there's of course going to be issues. We've swapped batteries on all the airplanes on warranty, but it was...
What was that?
It's because there's a state of health indicator on the battery in percent, so it algorithms the state of the battery because it measures each cell, what's the quality of it, and a few of the cells were bad, so then it degraded faster than it's supposed to, because it's supposed to degrade from 100% to 0 in 500 hours, but it did that in a considerably shorter amount of time. So, but now we have the second generation of batteries in it, and so far it's a lot better.
Okay, cool. And since we're up here close to the polar circle, I mean the temperature varies from about up to plus 30 Celsius during the summer down to minus 35 in the winter.
Exactly.
And how has that affected your operation when it comes to the batteries?
Well, I think it's the same as flying a piston up here. You have to preheat that as well in some way, and you still have to preheat this one. Okay. So there's now a dedicated heater that heats the cooling cycle with the battery to get them up to working temperature. All right. Because it's not going to connect the batteries to the system if they're below 5 degrees. So you have to have a heated hangar. You can't park it outside for lengthy periods of time, but it's allowed to fly down to minus 20. Okay. So of course it requires a little bit of a different mindset and different thinking, but if you're used to flying in winter conditions and preheating a piston engine and everything that comes with flying in winter conditions, then it's not a big deal.
So it doesn't really, the fact that it's super cold outside doesn't affect the range of it or the duration?
No, quite the other way around. I mean, an electric car, then the range is considerably shorter in the winter, but that's because you're heating it inside in the cabin. Yeah. This doesn't have heating in the cabin.
No, but it does have cooling though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
So if you're flying and it's minus 30 outside, the cooling is going to be significantly more effective.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, exactly. Now you can only fly down to minus 20, but of course in the winter you have to cover the air intake to 2/3 or 3/4 to limit the amount of cooling, because otherwise the batteries are not going to keep working temperature.
And was that something that Pipistrel was aware of when they?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. When I did my difference training there down in Italy, then they said, yeah, this is the procedure for it.
All right, perfect.
But now there's a software change, so now the pump actually runs off a thermostat, just like any heating system should.
Okay, that's really, really interesting, but what I want to do is obviously to try the thing out, to see how it actually feels in the air. So I know that you have one prepared for me, so let's get to it, yeah? Now, the first thing that stands out when you're walking out to the aircraft is that it's connected, it's obviously being charged. Yeah. What kind of charging time do you need to get it fully charged?
Usually between flight lessons, about 40 minutes.
I happen to know that we actually talked about this on the way here, that there's a reason that you guys are in Skellefteå of all places. And I know that the airport has gone above and beyond what they actually need in order to provide you guys with 3-phase charging. Yeah. So that white building over there, can you tell me what that is?
Yeah, exactly. The airport decided that airplanes, so electric airplanes, are up and coming. There's going to be electric airliners with 35 seats or so, but you need to be able to charge them, and they want that traffic to start here. So they just decided to install a 1 megawatt power station straight to the airport, and that's 10% of the power supply in the county. So it's
one megawatt of power being provided.
It's a little bit more than we need.
And that's all using sustainable electricity. So electricity that's been kind of created sustainable.
Yeah, exactly. That's all produced by wind and hydropower, water power.
Yeah. And let's get into it.
There's only four switches in it, so it's just a master avionics battery to connect the batteries to the system, and then power enable to connect the engine and the inverter to the system. So now it's live. So
okay, so the engine is actually...
The engine is live, yeah.
Live. So when I put the thrust up, it's actually going to start moving the propeller.
Yeah.
All right, this is weird. Yep. Oh, that's weird.
Yep.
That's weird.
And now if you pull it back, they will actually stop. That's the most scary thing when you're flying pistons for 20 years like I have. Then it's not supposed to stop ever.
But does it have a windmill to actually regenerate any power?
No, the technology hasn't reached there yet.
How wide is it? What's the wingspan?
11, I think.
All right, it's good.
Ish.
In terms of checklists for, like, of course, engine start and everything, it's just 4 buttons that you have to switch on.
Yeah, it's just 4 buttons. I mean, yeah, the regular stuff of checking the controls and all this stuff. But I mean, there's no priming or magneto check or anything, and there's no power check either in it, other than just making sure you get full power before departure. So once we line up, then on departure you hold the brakes and then add full power, and then just make sure you're getting 50 kilowatts out of it, and then release brakes and you go.
Perfect. And what kind of takeoff performance do you have with 2 grown-ups on board like this?
We'll be airborne in 250 meters.
Oh, it's super weird that the propeller stops running when you take the thrust off.
Yeah.
0 November Delta, runway 10, clear for takeoff.
10 clear takeoff, 0 November Delta.
Okay, so in terms of speeds?
Yeah, you rotate around 50, 55, and then you have to pitch up quite a bit and aim for 70. But other than that, it's a normal takeoff. Just maintain center line with rudder, a little bit of aileron into wind, and then you'll feel when it starts flying.
Right. So just to remind you now, I haven't flown general aviation in quite a while.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Okay, so no other checklist needs to be done. We're cleared for takeoff.
Yeah. So you just hold the brakes and then you go the power all the way up. And we're off.
Oh man, that's a lot of acceleration right there.
Yeah, it's quick.
I've been alive.
Deck. And you can just ease the stick back. Then we're up. And then keep pitching a little bit. There you go. So it climbs pretty well.
It's wonderful. 70, around 70 for the speed. Yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah.
No, and on top of that, you have a yaw damper that does everything for you, so they become lazy.
With that manual yaw damper in this thing.
Yeah, in my case, it's more like a yaw inducer.
Yeah.
All right, so here we are, 1500 feet.
Yeah, when you level off, you bring the power back to 25 kilowatts, normal cruise.
And what happens if the, let's say one of the battery packs starts overheating? What kind of time do you have? Does it shut out that battery completely, or?
Yeah, exactly. It'll be a caution. I mean, it's a cast panel, so it'll just show whatever failure you have, and then the procedure is, I mean, we have a QRH, so then the procedure will be to disconnect that battery, and then you fly home on the other one.
I mean, it's super. First of all, it feels like it handles really well.
Yeah, it really does. It's a beautifully balanced airplane. I mean, like I said before too, it's the feel of the controls is more similar to an ultralight airplane.
Yeah.
Like they're very quick and fast compared to a Piper or a Cessna. So the old school was a little bit heavier, but I love flying it. I mean, it's super smooth.
Super smooth. Have you had any problems with it in flight? Have you had any issues with batteries or?
No, we've had a few cautions, but it's been just sensor stuff that's gone away when you restart it. So, and we haven't had any emergencies as such. The only thing that we sort of, I wouldn't say struggle, but you have to be aware of is the range, and you have to plan for traffic. And I mean, it's awesome for us being in an airport that doesn't have that much traffic, and the air traffic controllers are great, and we have a great dialogue with them. Because I mean, we cannot take a 15-minute holding on the way back to wait for an IFR to land.
No, of course.
So we have to coordinate that in a way.
Yeah. Is there any indication from the battery suppliers? I mean, for example, another thing that I haven't mentioned is that, of course, Skellefteå is going to be home to Northvolt, which is going to be a mega factory of batteries.
Exactly, yeah.
For the same reason that you guys are here, that there's clean power available to actually create the batteries.
Yeah.
Are they saying anything like, are there any breakthroughs on the way?
Well, Northvolt got involved with Cuber, which is a manufacturer in the US that produces airplane batteries. So of course we're hoping for development there, but Pipistrel themselves, they're developing the next generation of battery, which is then going to give a longer range. But probably around an hour and a half for the next generation, and then hopefully like a year or two later, then maybe we're up to 2 hours. So I guess the difference now compared to a few years ago is that there's proper money being pushed into research and development.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's the difference. But this is the first generation. It works great as it is. There's things that can be better, but I mean it's perfectly useful in flight training like it is.
And actually the simplicity of it all, for me, that's great. Like, this is what I would, if I wanted an ultralight to just go out and do a little bit of flying,
Yeah.
this is what I would like.
Yeah.
You know, something that I can trust and something that is pretty easy and pretty quick to get going.
Yeah.
Is, yeah, no, I mean, I would love one of these.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just landed downstream from the yellow walking bridge there, and then I taxied up to that harbor. It's a guest harbor there, and then walked over the work because it's just on the other side.
Yeah, because you have an amphibic.
Yeah, I have a seaplane Super Cub. Yeah, doesn't really save any time flying to work, but it's cool.
Yeah, it is.
I just did it.
Yeah, it is. So now we are at about 73% battery power, or battery left.
Yep.
Okay. How long have you been flying, more or less?
Oh, I don't know, yeah, just over. That's the thing when you instruct in it, since, I mean, range is a little bit limited, so you can't just sort of stay out another 10 minutes just to practice a few more turns. So sometimes you're gonna have to split lessons into two and go back home and charge and then go again and that whole thing. So it requires a little bit more from you as an instructor to not only teach someone, you know, normally you just fuel the airplane as much as you can. You have 4, 5, 6 hours of endurance, and then you go out and focus on flight training. But so from that point of view, it's more similar to commercial flying, because then, I mean, you're always on minimum fuel basically. You don't want to fly with more than to your destination alternate and final reserve because of the weight. I mean, you always have passengers that, you know, useful load is worth more than extra fuel.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's super easy to fly. It really is like point and turn. Even to keep the turns coordinated, maintaining an altitude is pretty easy.
Yeah.
All right, so she's just keeping us on hold there, even though she knows we're an electric aircraft.
Yep, it's because the other guy is an IFR. That's the thing, that the airplane is white. It doesn't have a beacon and it doesn't have any sort of contrast markings on it, so sometimes they have a hard time seeing us. So we've asked to have, you know, solution to it, but I don't know what's gonna be, but some kind of beacon is gonna have to be added to.
Clear towards the left base, runway 10.
This thing here too is that they can't use the radar below 2,000 feet, and we're rarely above 2,000 feet.
Yeah, all right. So, there we go. I see it.
Yeah, you see them turning in as well, straight ahead.
Oh yes, yeah, jumping inside.
Yeah.
You see, I feel that because it's keeping the speed super. I mean, I'm using no power.
Yeah.
And it's keeping the speed well, and I'm descending just slightly.
Yeah.
So you can really tell that it's a glide, that it's almost a glider.
Yeah, it's a
number 1.
Yeah, I guess Pipistrel built gliders from the very beginning, so that's the heritage they have, sort of.
Then resetting power is also super easy. Like it just.
Well, you can fly the approach at 70 knots. Just flap speed is 80 for one notch flaps. Yeah. And then on final, the VRF is 60. And that's the tricky part, because 2 stages of flap, max speed is 65. So it's pretty tight. So if it's gusty, then we prefer to not use full flap for landing, just because the margin is just too slow, too small.
because the power comes immediately. Like there's no delay.
No, there's no delay or spool up or anything. When was the last time you flew with a stick?
I've never flown with a stick.
Never?
No, I've never flown. No.
Oh, that's true, because you flew 172s for basic training.
172s and flown PA-28s.
Yeah.
But I mean, it comes super natural.
Yeah.
What kind of speed you said? 50 or?
Yeah, you can 60 for reference speed.
Here's where you would like to get a little bit more flaps, it feels like.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing, the flap speed is right there at 60, 65.
So actually you prefer just one step of flap here?
Yeah, since the wind is a little bit gusty, then
Alright.
let's go with one. But you can go idle power here, and then just, because this, it's gonna fly and fly and fly. And then just use your feet to keep it straight. Well done.
This is such a toy. It's such a beautiful little aircraft. Like, yeah, honestly, there's a lot of emotions now. The fact that you just switch on these 4 switches and the aircraft is live and then it just starts moving. Now, I haven't flown general aviation since 2005, but this was so eerily easy and cool that yeah, I don't know how else to explain it. And then the flying in itself is exceptional. Again, it's like an ultralight. You see everything. It responds immediately to the power settings. The power settings are super easy. It needs a little bit of trim, but very little. And to keep track of performance is actually surprisingly simple as well. So yeah, I do have some questions about how to use this in a professional airline pilot training program, which I'm going to ask you. But my first impression is that for just stick and rudder feelings and to get to feel the aircraft properly, which is what you need in the beginning of your training, I can definitely see how this is an excellent tool. When it comes to propulsion, how much did that flight? It was about 40 minutes-ish?
Yeah, exactly, just short of 40 minutes.
Yeah, how much did that cost in propulsion?
Well, about €1.
About €1?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So, follow-up question. Battery packs.
Yeah.
Okay. How long will one of these battery packs, of which you have 2 in this aircraft, last?
Yeah, well, they're designed to last 500 hours, and the replacement cost is about €22,000. So of course that's going to be the major cost per hour when you
True.
get it done.
True, but when we look at let's say that we compare it with a Piper PA-28 or a Cessna 172 or something like that.
Yeah.
Those engines, how long do they last before you have to, in commercial operations, actually replace them or do a complete overhaul?
Usually 1,800 hours.
1,800 hours.
And I mean the cost there to replace them is anywhere from 50 to 65,000 euros.
Okay.
So when you compare the maintenance cost or the running cost, like the full everything included, insurance, whatnot, whatever, then the cost of this is about half per hour compared to the Tecnam that we have.
I've just flown this thing and it was super easy. There were basically 4 switches you switch on, and then everything is working, and then you just have to talk to a traffic control and you go fly and you go back and land.
Yeah.
2 sets of flaps or two stages of flaps, and that's it.
Yeah.
Now I do know and I do remember that flying a 172 or a PA-28, for example, there is significantly more to do.
Yeah.
So have you had any issues when it comes to flight training in itself, that people who have been flying a lot on this and that get put into a more old type?
No, it's sort of a normal progression. You start off with this, which is simple. You start off with learning the basics, turns, slow flight, stalls, traffic patterns, and then you fly your first solo in this. And then when you start with the VFR navigation, then you do a difference training into the Tecnam, the single ended piston, and then you sort of get introduced to the whole, like you say, more complex systems. So, and then eventually you fly the simulator and then the DA-42.
When it comes to the other aircraft, what kind of other aircraft do you have? Are you using?
We have Tecnam 2010 with a diesel engine.
Okay.
So it's a four-seater with a Garmin 1000 suit with integrated autopilot and everything.
Cool.
Which is great for the instrument phase of training. We do a lot of IFR cross-country navigations with it, and then once you're done with that stage of training, then transition into D42,
Okay.
which is sort of the only option for multi-engine piston training nowadays.
Thank you very much. It's been
Yeah,
interesting
thank
to
you.
say the least.
Yeah, welcome back to finish off your difference training.
Oh yeah. I need to get my general aviation, my single pilot rating back first of all.
Yeah.
That's gonna take a while. So what do I think about this then? Well, I think that Green Flight Academy is full of competent, great people, and they have a good organization going, and it might just be that they've found the one way of using electric aircraft in a way that suits their business model and in a great way. But it has actually just solidified my view that the energy density in today's batteries are just nowhere close to where it needs to be in order for it to be used in any type of commercial operation, as in short haul, medium haul, and definitely not something as big as the one that we're seeing right here. Now, in order for that to happen, I think that we're going to have to look at other types of technologies to make aviation more sustainable. And I'm looking forward to bring you along for other trips, going and look at other operators out there and other companies that have great ideas for us to move into the future. Now, if you like this video, you'll definitely like this video as well. It's really cool. And if you want to support the work that we do here on the channel, well, then take part in my wonderful Patreon crew or buy yourself some merch. There'll be links to it in the video below. Have an absolutely fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.